Oh, October 18th, 1972. 20:34 a.m. Frank Lucas got the call that would end a man's career. Boss, we got a problem. Eddie's making moves. Frank was in his Teaneck mansion, couldn't sleep. Business problems kept him up. He sat up in bed. What kind of moves? He's telling dealers he doesn't work for you anymore. Says he's got his own supply now, direct from Thailand. Says you're finished, and anyone who wants product better, come through him. Frank didn't say anything for 10 seconds. Just held the phone, thinking. Then, in a voice so calm it was terrifying, find out everything. I want to know who he's talked to, who he's bought from, who's backing him. Everything. You have 6 hours. Eddie Fast Carter had been Frank's top dealer in the Bronx since 1969. Smart kid, ambitious, that's why they called him Fast. He moved product faster than anyone else. Could turn over 50 kilos in a week when other dealers struggled with 10. Frank had made Eddie rich, given him territory, given him opportunity. By 1972, Eddie was making $150,000 a month, had a penthouse in Riverdale, a Mercedes, a Rolex collection worth more than most people's houses, but for some men, everything is never enough. To understand what happened, you need to understand the relationship between Frank and his dealers. Frank wasn't just a supplier, he was a system. When you worked for Frank Lucas, you got pure product at fair prices. You got protection. You got support when things went wrong, but you also followed rules. Rule 1, you don't skim. Rule 2, you don't talk to police. Rule 3, you don't go around Frank to his suppliers. Eddie Carter broke Rule 3. It started in September 1972. Eddie was in Frank's office in Harlem, picking up his weekly supply, 50 kilos of Blue Magic, pure heroin, the best product in New York. You know, Frank, Eddie said, counting the kilos, I've been thinking, I move more product than anyone else. I make you more money than anyone else. Maybe it's time we renegotiate my percentage. Frank looked up from his desk. You make $150,000 a month. What more do you want? I want what I'm worth. I'm doing all the work, taking all the risk. You're just the middleman between me and Thailand. Cut out the middleman, I could double my profits. Frank's jaw tightened. You think I'm just a middleman? I built the connection to Thailand. I created the smuggling route. I established the trust with supplier. You think you can just walk into Bangkok and they'll sell to you? I think I can try. Frank stood up slowly. Eddie, I'm going to give you some advice, and I'm only going to say this once. I don't get greedy. Greed makes men stupid, and stupid men die poor. Eddie picked up his supply. I'll keep that in mind. But Eddie didn't keep it in mind. 2 weeks later, he was on a plane to Bangkok. What Eddie didn't know was that Frank had people everywhere, including Thailand. One of those people, a liaison named Chen, who helped Frank coordinate shipments, called Frank the moment Eddie showed up, asking to buy heroin. There's a man here, says his name is Eddie Carter. Says he works for you, wants to buy direct. Should I sell to him? Frank smiled. Not a happy smile, a wolf smile. Sell to him, give him exactly what he asks for, and tell me everything. Chen sold Eddie 40 kilos. Eddie paid cash money he'd been skimming from Frank's operation for months. Money Frank didn't know about yet. Eddie flew back to New York, convinced he'd just outsmarted Frank Lucas. He had his own supply now, didn't need Frank anymore. Could keep all the profits for himself. October 17th, 1972. Eddie called a meeting with all the dealers who worked under him in the Bronx. 30 guys, all of them moving Frank's product. Things are changing, Eddie announced. I don't work for Frank Lucas anymore. I've got my own supply. Better quality, better prices. Anyone who wants to keep making money, you work for me now, not Frank. Some dealers were excited. They'd always resented paying Frank's percentage. This was a chance to make more money. But others were nervous. You didn't just stop working for Frank Lucas. Not if you wanted to stay healthy. What about Frank? One dealer asked. He's not just going to let you take his territory. Frank's finished, Eddie said confidently. He's been at the top too long, got soft, got comfortable. He won't even see this coming. By the time he realizes what happened, we'll be too strong for him to touch. Word got back to Frank within 4 hours. By midnight, Frank knew everything. Eddie's trip to Thailand, the 40 kilos, the meeting with the dealers, the declaration that Frank was finished. Most men in Frank's position would have exploded, would have sent men to kill Eddie immediately, would have made it bloody in public. But Frank Lucas wasn't most men. He was smarter than that. He sat in his office and made 3 phone calls, and those 3 phone calls would destroy Eddie Carter's entire operation in 72 hours. First phone call to Chen in Bangkok. That shipment you sold Eddie, what did you give him? 40 kilos, like you said, and the quality, same quality I give you. 90% pure. Good, now I need you to call your boss. Tell him Eddie Carter is not authorized to buy from us. Tell him if Eddie tries to buy again, the answer is no, and if anyone sells to Eddie without my permission, they're cut off from me permanently. Chen understood. Frank Lucas was their biggest customer. They moved 200 kilos a month through Frank. Eddie was nothing compared to that. Consider it done. Second phone call to Frank's banker in Manhattan. I need you to freeze some accounts for me. Whose accounts? Eddie Carter's, personal and business. Everything. Effective immediately. Frank, I can't just. You can, and you will. Eddie's been skimming from my operation. That money belongs to me. Freeze it. I'll sort out the details later. The banker knew better than to argue. By morning, Eddie's accounts would be frozen. Every dollar he'd saved would be inaccessible. Third phone call to Red Top, Frank's enforcer. Eddie Carter just declared war on me. I want you to visit every dealer who was at his meeting tonight. I want you to give them a choice. Work for me or work for nobody. Make it clear. You want Eddie dead? Frank thought about it. No, I want him broken. I want him to watch everything he built collapse. Then I want him gone, but not dead. A dead Eddie is a martyr. A broken Eddie is a lesson. Over the next 72 hours, Frank Lucas systematically dismantled everything Eddie Carter had built. Day 1, the dealers. Red Top and his crew visited all 30 dealers who'd been at Eddie's meeting. The message was simple. Frank knows you were there. Frank knows you listened to Eddie's pitch. You've got 24 hours to decide. Stay loyal to Frank, or find a new line of work. Choose wrong and you're out of the game. Permanently. 27 of the 30 dealers immediately called Frank's office, swore loyalty, said they never believed Eddie. Said they were just there because Eddie called a meeting. 3 dealers sided with Eddie. By the end of day 1, those 3 dealers found their stash houses raided by police. Anonymous tips. All their product confiscated. All their money seized. Day 2, the money. Eddie woke up to find his bank accounts frozen. $400,000 inaccessible. He called his banker, who told him the accounts were under federal investigation. Money laundering charges. Eddie would need to prove the money was legitimate before he could access it. Eddie knew he couldn't prove that. The money was from drug sales. He was locked out of his own fortune. Then Eddie tried to sell his 40 kilos. Called his usual buyers. But word had spread. Frank Lucas was at war with Eddie Carter. Nobody wanted to be caught in the middle. Buyers who'd been begging for product 2 days ago suddenly weren't answering their phones. Day 3, the supply. Eddie tried to call Chen in Bangkok, needed to order more, build up inventory, but Chen's number was disconnected. Eddie called Frank's other Thai contacts. None of them would talk to him. He was cut off. No supply, no buyers, no money. By day 3, Eddie Fast Carter's empire had collapsed. Everything he'd built in 3 years, gone in 72 hours, October 21st, 1972. Eddie showed up at Frank's office in Harlem, unannounced, desperate. Frank's secretary tried to stop him. "Mr. Lucas doesn't have time," but Eddie pushed past her, burst into Frank's office. Frank was sitting at his desk, reading the New York Times. He looked up calmly. "I was wondering when you'd show up." "Frank, listen. I made a mistake. I got greedy. I thought you could cut me out." Frank interrupted. "You thought you were smart enough to go around me. You thought 3 years of success made you equal to me." He stood up, walked around the desk. "Let me explain something to you, Eddie. You moved my product, in my territory, using my reputation, my connections, my infrastructure, and you thought that made it yours. I built those dealer relationships with my product. You think those dealers respected you. They respected my heroin. They respected my name. You were just the delivery boy." Frank leaned against his desk. "You went to Thailand, bought 40 kilos, thought you were a big shot. But you didn't think about what happens when I make one phone call and your supply disappears. You didn't think about what happens when I freeze your money. You didn't think about what happens when every dealer in New York knows I'm against you." Eddie's shoulders slumped. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to leave New York. Tonight you've got 12 hours to pack your things and disappear. Go to Atlanta. Go to Detroit. Go anywhere. But you're done in this city. Frank, please. This is my home. My whole life is here. Your life here is over. You made your choice when you tried to steal from me. Now you live with the consequences." Eddie's eyes filled with tears. "I'll give back the 40 kilos. I'll work for free. Anything. I don't want your 40 kilos. I don't want your work. I want you gone. Because every dealer in New York needs to see what happens when you betray Frank Lucas. They need to see that you don't get to apologize your way out. You don't get to say sorry and go back to making money. You get exiled. You get erased." Frank walked back to his desk, sat down, picked up his newspaper. 12 hours, Eddie. Don't make me send people to encourage you to leave." Eddie Carter left New York that night. Took what he could carry, left everything else behind. He ended up in Detroit, trying to start over, but word had spread. Eddie Carter, the guy who tried to steal from Frank Lucas. Nobody wanted to work with him. Nobody trusted him. By 1974, Eddie was working at a car wash, making $200 a week. A far cry from the $150,000 a month he'd been making with Frank. The story of Eddie's fall became legend in the drug world. Old-timers still tell it. About the time Frank Lucas destroyed a man's entire operation in 72 hours without firing a single shot. Red Top, who'd been Frank's enforcer during that time, explained it years later. Frank could have killed Eddie. Probably should have. That's what most people would do. But Frank understood something deeper. Killing Eddie would make people afraid. But breaking Eddie, taking everything he had and sending him away alive, that made people respectful. That showed them Frank's power wasn't just about violence. It was about control, about connection, about being so plugged in that you can destroy someone without ever touching them. Frank Lucas was arrested in 1975. His empire crumbled. But during those final years, nobody ever tried to go around him to his suppliers again. Nobody tried to steal his territory because they all remembered what happened to Eddie Fast Carter. The cautionary tale. The man who had everything and lost it all in 72 hours because he forgot one simple rule. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. If this story about power, betrayal, and calculated destruction moved you, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you understand that sometimes the worst punishment isn't death. It's watching everything you built disappear. Comment below, was Frank right to exile Eddie, or should he have given him a second chance? Turn on notifications because next week we're revealing how Frank Lucas built his smuggling operation and why it changed drug trafficking forever. Remember, In the drug game, loyalty is everything, and Frank Lucas never forgot a betrayal.